Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Chestnut Checkers. My name is Keith, and this is the start of 2026.
Here we go.
And
Man.
I'm here with Jordan, by the way.
Yeah.
If you guys haven't figured that out,
You let
by
me
now,
back in. That's always a good sign. That means 25 was all right. So
first podcast 2026, and what we want to do today is talk just a little bit about lessons learned from 25 and what the plans are for 26. Jordan, you go first.
wow, I know we even had time to think about this. It was such a loaded one, but I think I do like retrospectively looking back on a year. I think sometimes when you're in it, it's hard to really pull lessons from it. But 25 was such a teaching year for me, from communication style to planning to what I really want from it. But I mean, a quick high level, basically, still built a few apartments, had some negative press that kind of pushed a few businesses there, saved those businesses. And so it was this like roller coaster of a year from me personally, just how I dealt with it, to the businesses, to just what I did in Spokane. I think by the end of the year, it was building this kind of calming lesson. So it culminated kind of in the Stacking Bricks book, which really was just the tools I tried to use to navigate it. And I think 25 will go down as one of those transcendent years. So when somebody asked me, like what the aha moment
Will
was.
it though? You think
for
25?
For me personally?
How? So let me ask you this question, because I feel like 2025 was a tough year for me for a variety of reasons, but also it was a growth year. But I feel like every year is that for me. But how is 25 any different than 24?
So 24, I still had hope.
Yes.
Like 24, I was still like, nope, you're gonna outwork this. You're gonna outwork this. You're gonna outwork this. And it wasn't that I lost hope in 25. It was just I finally got real with myself in 25.
Gotcha.
And I think,
and I would say in 24, did you have hope or did you have like unrealistic?
Call it unrealistic hope, right? It was just cautiously, well, it was just optimism. Overly optimistic. Yeah. And so then I would make decisions based on that optimism. I would communicate based on that optimism. I would try to make people happy again based on that optimism. And really 24 was just kind of like, you can still do this. Go prove this. And then what 25 turned into, I still think I can do it. It's just I can't communicate it like it's happening. It's more realistic. And my whole mindset shifted. So actually, by the time the article came out, my mindset had already shifted so far that I was like, this thing was it could have been in the paper 3 months ago. Mm-hmm. Right. And it wasn't. And so really 25 kind of, I think, taught me to just that calming lesson of things that have already helped me make decisions, from saying no more than yes, to how I communicate with people. I don't do it perfectly, right? It just was the first time I'm aware every time I don't now. Like if I leave this meeting, I'm like, hey, Keith, I'm going to have something to you by 3 p.m. today.
Yeah.
I will walk out of the door and be like, wait, how am I going to get him something by 3 p.m. today? It's impossible. And I think so 25 was just this awareness. It wasn't that everything got fixed. It was just, I was now very aware of every part of the system.
So it's funny. I was having a conversation about you the other day with a person that I love and care about, but we were talking about the podcast, and so it wasn't really about Jordan, but it was about the podcast. But they were asking me about you, and I said, listen, I said, one of the things I appreciate the most about Jordan is, with all that's going on, is like, and we've done this podcast, is just the fact that he's like in there, he's answering tough questions, he's kind of taking the bull by the horns, he's doing whatever. And they were like, they're like, what's funny is in their life and in people's lives that they know, they said it's so commonplace for people when things don't go right for them to kind of disappear. Mm-hmm. It just is easier, right? Like if we're just being transparent, and I think I've done it, everybody's done it, is like, listen, like it's easier for me to go kind of lick my wounds in private and then reappear on the scene when things are better or forgotten, right? Mm-hmm. And you kind of see that in so many different aspects with different people. And it can be something like somebody's going through a divorce. Yep. It can be something like somebody's business is collapsing or gone sideways. It can be something like they flunked out of college, that they broke up with a relationship. But a lot of times our instinct is to disappear. It's to say, man, like this is embarrassing, or this is hard, or this isn't working. And I just can't be in this right now. And I want to like go and reappear when things are better, or even just not reappear, right? Mm-hmm. And I think we've all had that like feeling of like going and hiding under a rock. And so I think that's the one thing maybe we don't have that luxury anymore, but I think that's one thing that we both face is like, as a person with a podcast, as simple as it is, or even with a prominent social media profile or clout in a small or mid-sized community, is there's not anywhere to hide.
Yeah.
And there's also a thing about like deciding who you are in those moments of like, but I don't want to be the guy who hides and reappears.
Yeah.
I don't want to be the guy who disappears and then comes back. And so what I would say to you is, I think in 2025 and doing podcasts last year is like, what I really have a ton of respect for is like, you just kind of, comfortable or uncomfortable, have sat in it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's all you can do. And in my mind, when you talk about, over, you know, I relate what you say or a lot of people say to myself or my situation. But when I talk to people about like over committing and under like providing when it comes to like an email 3 or whatever, it's just, that's some of the magic in growing up and adulting and growing as a business person or entrepreneur. It's just learning your own boundaries or your pitfalls of like, okay, that as small as that is, as small as hey, Jordan, when I leave here today, I'll send you an email at 3:00 with a better update on X, Y, and Z. And then not doing it or doing it. Like, it can be really trivial later to say like, hey, dude, sorry I didn't get you that email until the next morning. But yet it's important in the sense of like, stack those up.
Yeah.
Stack all those little micro commitments, those little things we say, hey, I'll call you back. Hey, I'll send that by 3, or hey, I'll get you that report by the end of the week. For me, I guess I'm in the similar boat of like just learning like, A, don't say it, but doing it, it just builds those micro wins. It's like, listen, if I tell you I'm going to get you something at 3 and I get it, it does 2 things. One is it reiterates in your mind that Keith's the kind of guy that does what he says he's going to do, and he says he's going to do it. But for me, it reiterates to myself subconsciously that like, oh, I did that. I did that. I said I was going to do that, and then I did that, and then I did it, and I won. And what else can I say I'm going to do and win? And what else? And it gives you self-confidence, and it gives you, it can be so simple as going home at the end of the day and doing 3 or 4 or 5 of those things and being like, you know what? Today wasn't great because I'm still in the same shit situation I was in when the day started at the end of the day. But I won 5 different miniature micro battles of like, I set a standard and I met the standard for myself. And I set a standard, I met the standard for myself. Yeah. It's really underappreciated or under-recognized, I think, in life, is just like how often we fail ourselves and other people with micro commitments.
Correct. And see roads over time.
And what that does, what it does to us over time, it erodes, and this is a more deeply impactful thing I think that I realized years ago, is like it erodes your trust with yourself. Like your word
the effect on
with
you
yourself. And that then parlays into, hey, it's January 1st of 2026, Keith, we're going to get in better shape and hit the gym. Well, if I've eroded my word with myself for years, even myself doesn't believe my word. So Keith's like, yeah, Keith, we're going to get in better shape this year. We're going to work out. Great, Keith. You don't even believe that shit yourself because you let yourself down all the time, right? Like you let other people down all the time. And as trivial as that sounds, that's a life lesson. That's something that I've learned, throughout life. And I think 2025 helped, but was just kind of like, don't do it. Or if you do it, try to set yourself up for success in the big moments by being successful in little micro, teeny, small moments that might seem trivial at the time. But it's just as simple as either not setting yourself up for failure or just doing the little teeny things when you say you're going to do them the way you're going to do them.
And I mean, I think that's the perfect segue and kind of explain the year. The 24 was, I just was always looking for the big win, the golden ticket that would solve it. And that was the issue. And then what 25 was just stacking a brick, right? It was let me do one little thing today. Let me follow up with one thing today. And the amount of momentum I got in 25, you could say rates changed, the market got better, but it wasn't crazy better. But that was the biggest difference I saw. Because then what happened to me was I would write, I'm going to get this, and then someone would come with a loan. And you're like, I just I'm put all my eggs in this basket to get there versus no, just communicate where it's at. And no, it sucks. It's really hard to do. You're building up what I think Keith's going to respond with the first day. You're tempering personalities. Your businesses aren't there. I mean, winning solves all that. And the hard part is that to get from where they were at to winning, you had to clean up a bunch.
Well, I think it does something else too, as far as like setting micro wins for yourself intentionally and doing what you say you're going to do. It's telling the story to someone else. It's also telling the story to yourself, which reaffirms your belief in oneself and this and that. But the other thing is it's a step in the right direction or a sign to somebody that may not be the answer that they want, but at least it's a positive answer. So, hey, Keith, I need this built and I need a certificate of occupancy by Friday. Yeah. I can't give you that.
Yeah.
But what I can give you is an email update at 3:00 today as to where exactly we are and when I can get it done.
Yeah.
And as mad or angry as somebody might be that it's not going to be done on the Friday that they want, it's also like, hey, I'm going to own that. I'm sorry that the project's delayed or that's not going to happen by Friday. But what I can give you is this. Mm-hmm. Now, what happens a lot of times is we say, well, now I can give you this. And then we also don't do that. Yeah. Right? Now your project's not done on Friday with the CO. And you didn't give me the email at 3:00 that you promised me. And so now you're starting to domino effect that thing. And so it's kind of.
Or worse, you don't communicate at all. Like that's what I found. And that's where I think the learning that lesson through it is just that communication piece becomes so big. And then the hard part is you get in these cycles where I'm still working like 14-hour days to get all this done. I'm staying up to 1. Like it's a lot of work to get them done. And then in my head, I'm like,
I know you were shooting me emails the other day at like 11:30 at night, but ironically I was on my home computer. So I was like literally getting them in real time. And I was like, oh, he's up late.
Well, I started doing them because nobody usually responds. So if I get them all in my inbox, then we're good.
What I didn't know this, but a tidbit is like, did you know you can schedule a text now?
Yeah, schedule text, schedule email. You can schedule an email too. So the only reason I don't do it now anymore.
I knew the schedule email thing. I didn't know you could schedule a text. That's super.
So I'll write a bunch of them that go out at 8 a.m.
Yeah,
like the night, just so I don't forget to send it because that'll be mine.
Texting somebody at 12:30 a.m. Like it's like, hey, it's on my mind.
Yep.
I got your thing. I want to let you know that this is great. I also don't want to text you at 1 a.m. and have you think I'm a psycho.
Exactly. So yeah, and that's why email, I felt pretty safe. But I think like that was kind of the big one. And it took me a little while to realize like I just had so much going on. Yeah. And so then you're really frustrated with me, but you're one of 19 that I'm trying to solve. And how do you be just as empathetic and communicative and over the top with one, even though in a given day I'm in a meeting from 7 to 4. And that really, I used it as an excuse in 24, and then it was like, this is what I'm going to learn in 25, is how to do both. Because you can do both. It's just a mindset block by not doing it. And that's where this podcast helped me a ton because I never shut my phone off for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Ever. And because there was just apprehension of when that turns on, how many people, who needed what. And then I realized I'm like, I'm not even that important.
Yeah.
Like we can get this. And there was just a lot of overcoming just hurdles I had that were probably ego driven. I don't know what they were, but probably had a number of things. So 25 for me was just reset the foundation. I looked at the deals. The deals weren't bad.
Right.
They were improperly funded. I used to get loans with 90% loan to cost and then turn around and sell them or get a refi or do something for 10 years.
Yeah.
Well, now you can't. But I had 7 of those in progress. So a lot of that cleanup was like, because for a while I was like, man, what was it the deal? And I'm like, no, actually, technically, independently, these are all good projects. They just required more staying power. And I should have known that and raised more or brought more or had that or did 2. And I think that's the one, if I could go back, it was just more setting up the deals better, which is what we're doing now. So,
and I think for me, one of the ahas that I've had out of that is not just preparing yourself for the plan, but also the ancillary plan and the ancillary plan. But I don't know that the analogy I always use in my coaching conversations is juggling chainsaws. Yeah. Right. And the analogy of juggling chainsaws is like the idea of juggling chainsaws is not a good idea. No. Right. Like we can all agree on that. I feel like. But yeah, we've probably all seen it. And if you haven't, I'm sure you can find it on YouTube. But there are people that juggle chainsaws professionally for a living. There's some guy in the circus right now or some guy who's making a living going around juggling chainsaws. Now, I imagine if you were to get his story and talk to him, it's like he started juggling at an early age or has been in a circus his whole life. But for that guy, it may or may not be that dangerous. Matter of fact, he might even make the argument of like, I've been juggling chainsaws for 15 years. I don't know. And maybe they know enough that like, even if it's not perfect, they know enough that when it's not perfect, they pull their hand back and the chainsaw explodes on the ground and they don't cut themselves. But the problem is, and this is, I'm trying to put a little bow on this, but the problem a lot of times is it doesn't, the stakes aren't as high when you're juggling with like ping pong balls or when you're juggling. The stakes get higher and the stakes get higher and the stakes get higher. But then the cost for failure also gets a lot higher, right? Technically, losing a hand versus like looking silly in front of people if I drop some bowling pins, right? But I think as we look at our lives, sometimes it's the same with our lives. Like the stakes just get higher.
Yeah.
Projects might get bigger, but also like, hey man, if I run out of money and I'm 12 years old, maybe not that big of a deal. I don't get lunch that day at school, or I got to ask my mom for money, or I got to borrow from my buddy. If I run out of money at 50 years old and I'm in charge of, the city's budget, right? Big difference, right? But so I think all of these things get kind of magnified just with life and just with scale. And so sometimes you have to kind of ask yourself, what game am I playing? For me, the biggest lesson in a lot of that was just to be aware of or know when I'm going into situations like, is this a chainsaw juggling scenario, or is this like a bowling pin juggling scenario? And I think for me, the stakes because my mindset got set when the stakes weren't that high, I never took weight to the consequences of my action as much, because by the time the stakes got higher, my track record was wins. And so really some of the first losses that I ever took that were hefty losses were really high stakes, hefty losses. It's like, well, shit, I'd have been nicer if this would have happened on my second flip house and not a 32 unit apartment, right? Like, oh, my budget's off 10%. Great. My flip budget was 20,000. I'm off $2,000.
I can deal with that.
my 30 unit budget is $2.5 million. I need $250,000, right? And so again, you can kind of rationalize this, but I think one of the things that I took away in 2025 was just being more aware of the actual collateral damage I can create as a person, as a business owner, as a parent, that I maybe was a little bit unwilling to admit to myself, or was a little bit unaware of.
Yeah, and I think I have a couple really good, there's just so many silver linings through this too, of like people I met that I wouldn't have met, things I've done that I never would have done.
Oh, for sure.
Like in a good way as well. But I think they've just caused me to look at what are more the downsides, right? What could really go wrong, communicate that, but then also see about moving forward. And I think it's such a cyclical nature, right? We're doing a snapshot of where these assets sit now. But if we look in 5 years and I sell them for what I told them we would sell them for in 5 years, it might have done exactly what I said.
Yeah.
It's just you're getting you get judged on this day to day. And I think it was just the combination of all those pinching in. And then what I think it's the biggest takeaway I've taken from this podcast, and I believe it's your MS4, but is the idea of the three. I don't actually remember if that's the MS4 of the three things where, and I always pull the one is like
capability, capacity, and will.
I never gave the ability to capacity. I just thought I'll just stay up later, and I have stayed up later. I stay up really late doing all this, and there just hits a point where there are just some parts of this game that are outside your control.
Yeah,
and you need to mitigate them. But I just, in my head, it's like, okay, you can buy that. I was buying buildings on a text message to a lender because I had so many we were just doing so much work together and making money. And so it's like, wait, so you can buy this building. It has a tenant in it. It has 1 year left on their lease. It's in a cool location, and I can buy it for my commission rolled in.
Yeah.
Do you buy it? I just said yes, because my assumption was when they moved out, it's going to be worth a little more, or I'll convert it to this, or one of my businesses will fill it. And they're like, well, what if the tenant moves out early? What if your business didn't grow enough to occupy it? Worse, what if it went away? Yeah. What if you need $350,000 to then do tenant improvements for it? And that's where I just started realizing that my initial goal was just wrong. It was see how high you can get, and that's just really a bad goal. And because I think it did, even where we fell to. I still have pretty sizable assets, still have those pieces, but what I lost in all that was just that point of missing an email, right? You lose trust. And I spent a lot of time, like a lot of people close to me because they knew once we signed a deal around, we closed.
Yeah.
And bought 50 plus buildings in a 4-year stretch, traded them, moved them. And it was just so moving. I just didn't see where that flaw would work. Well, that's because I hadn't been through a cycle where rates were that high and values didn't drop.
2025 might be for me the year that all of the things that every mentor of mine or coach of mine ever told me came true.
It's the I told you so year is what I'm going to call it.
I told you so year. Yeah, right.
It's all of them. Like, and they're just sitting back and you're like, oh, I remember him telling me that too. I remember all the developers in town saying, hey, sweet job, Jordan, but you better watch out. And I'm like, oh, it's just a new way. And I'm like, nope, every one of them were right. Every one of them had their point.
Hilarious.
Every one of them knew what they were talking about. That's the reason they didn't do those. Like I didn't have a special angle. And so I think now I'm like, okay, I really like what we're doing now. I have a clear path to getting everything back. And then it's just, I think the risk factor is going to change on how I approach it. And so, but what 25 did was, it doesn't matter my risk factor. Doesn't matter if I stay in real estate. Doesn't matter if I go into business. Doesn't matter if I leave and find a whole new career. Is that I still was I had some fundamental flaws as a person that I think
I'm
were
writing
addressed.
that down. 2025, the I told you so year. It's like the best.
It really is, though. And you're like, man, it's everybody that said something. And again, I've also proved a bunch of them wrong. It would have been super easy just to be like, look, the market was bad, and walked away.
Yeah.
And I hope 2027 then is the year he stayed. And it's like the culmination of like, okay, he stuck around when he didn't technically have to. I mean, the asset just didn't work on a couple of them. And instead we fought through, get people paid back, do that whole thing, and then have some good businesses on the other side, some help the community again, kind of get back to what I'd enjoyed.
I think 2025 for me, if I were to narrow it down to lessons learned, was the don't let my reaction be my response year.
Yeah.
That was my biggest takeaway of 2025 was my aha, and it's not that I didn't know this before, but I just didn't realize how much it was impacting me or everything in my life until, things weren't necessarily all gravy. Was my knee-jerk reaction to almost anything is anger.
Oh,
it's weird.
Interesting.
It's not sorrow, it's not shame and it's anger. So, like, I don't know, can't bench as much as I want, angry. Not making as much money off this deal as I want, angry.
Yeah.
Somebody's supposed to send me an email at 3, didn't get it, angry, right? Come home, dishes in the sink, angry. But I use that anger as fuel.
Yeah.
Right. So now I find reasons. This is Keith digging into Keith's, but I'm saying this because I'm sure there's people in our audience that have the same thing that maybe haven't had this. I was like, I would find myself finding reasons to get angry.
Yeah.
Because I needed to be angry for Keith to use that anger to be like, oh yeah. Well, guess what? Like, now I'm going to stay up tonight till 12:30 and make 6 different spreadsheets and figure out a way to make this work because I'm pissed that you didn't, or I'm going to do your job for you, or I'm going to, and so what I realized was I needed to put like a gap stop between like my knee-jerk reaction of things, which was typically anger, not always, and my response, right? Because I think I got a lot of, I would hope, and I'm optimistic to say that the people that hear this are like, I never got that vibe from Keith. But there were people that did. But I would hope that I downplayed it more than I feel like I did with the people in my life that are important to me, as far as like not taking things out on people. But I got enough feedback and was self-aware enough to notice that one of my knee-jerk reactions, I think, was anger. But then also I used that anger as fuel. But that I was not necessarily, I was curt, I was short, I was not necessarily as kind of a person as I wanted to be, right? So what I say that is, hopefully the people listening to this that know me are like, I never got the vibe that Keith was like angry or upset or constantly aggro. And yet I know I was, and internally I was. So I just was like going around life like pissed off. Like and in lieu of so many great things, so many awesome things in my life and reasons to be grateful and happy. And I kind of that was my big aha in 2025, was I got to a point where I was like, man, Keith, you got so much good in your life and around you that you have no business walking around as angry and as pissed as you are all the time. So you need to figure that out.
That's a big epiphany.
You need
That's a big epiphany.
You need to not act out of it, right? So and I was able to have more intelligent, calming, quieter, maybe even just what I say, effective conversations, communication, instead of just like the old Keith would just have like burned it down or use it as fuel or push through. Yeah. And I think there's a time and place for everything. It's just a different tool in the tool belt, and I didn't have that tool. Yeah. So I had like, it's like there's an old adage of so it goes, to anybody who's holding a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Yeah.
Go give your 5-year-old kid a hammer, and they'll bang anything. They'll bang a stool. They'll bang the coffee table. They're like, everything looks like something that needs to be banged on when I'm holding a hammer. Yeah. And so for Keith, when I was like, hey, I can get, I'm effective and I can get impact in my life and in a lot of people's lives through anger, through that aggression, like, I'll bear down and you watch this. It was effective. So then it was like everything looked that way.
Yeah.
I looked at the whole world through that lens.
Yeah, and it's rewarded with success.
Yeah.
So then why not? Like, do you ever hear Michael Jordan's speech, Last Dance? If you ever watched the documentary, it's a really good one. But that's what he said. He would just purposely get mad at another player. Like he said something or made him mad of some kind, so he could go.
He'd imagine that player saying something rude about his mom.
And sometimes they might say
whatever,
something. Yeah, exactly. And that was his Hall of Fame speech, and he still carried it with him. And I think that what I'm learning through this is that there's power and motivation. When I look at it, we did a lot. Like, I mean, by the end of this, like 2-year stretch, which I would call one of the hardest 2-year stretches, I was able to entitle, permit, get out of the ground, essentially on almost 600-700 units, just in Spokane, 7 different businesses. Like,
it's amazing.
It's a lot of stuff. And I think what was hard about it was I missed the reason I did it. And I think it was when I understood, like, where people were mad at me. Jordan didn't do what you said. And then it was just like questioning, was that me? How did I say it? How do we do it? And I think as I went through the whole thing and kind of put more light to it, one I realized was I wasn't good at hard conversations with family, with relationships. I would dodge them if for a stretch there. If you needed help, I'd just write you a check because I didn't want to be in the situation with you. I don't want to sit in pain.
To give you some money than have a hard conversation with you about your financial responsibilities or something, right?
Exactly. And it I dodged life.
Yeah.
And I think for the first time, I'm probably the most clear I've ever been. I love this podcast. I love it because it gives you that forum. I love it because I know there will be one person that listens to it and grabs one piece that'll help their life. It probably won't come from me, but it'll be from one of our guests or you. But and I'm just what I'm starting to realize is that this was not all for naught. I think what I went through, I was supposed to go through. I'm hoping to make it right with all the deals and get them done right, because there's still pain on some of the stuff that happened. And I think the goal would be is how do you go through life with more intentionality, and a little bit like it really has just changed the way I look at it. And now I find so much joy. I was just at this entrepreneurial pitch night I got invited to, and I was supposed to pitch. And I'm like, I don't want to. I just want to be there. Like, I want to just be around that energy. And I just sat there and I watched these guys so excited about their business and pitching it and the story and I lost that. I lost that in all this. I love that.
Yeah.
I've always loved that. And so in my world, and then I met, he's kind of mentored a really good friend, but he's taking his family and they're going to do a sabbatical year.
Oh, wow.
One of his sons is a sophomore, one's graduating high school, the other's in college, and they're just going to go for a year. And I started looking because we were looking at our projects done. I'm like, do we get a house? Do we do that? And then I was just like, no, the new me doesn't want a house. I want the flexibility to go on that trip. Yeah. And so once this is done, take a sabbatical year, go figure that out. I'm like, life, I thought you had to get life in 10 years. I thought I had to live my life in such a crunch timeline. Then I realized, like, the joy was never the end, as we've talked about so many times. It's not the units. It wasn't like, even when I say it tongue in cheek with that many units.
Well, it's like that old adage of like, life is the thing that happens when you're sitting around planning your life.
Yeah.
Right. Or we all have this, another way that a lot of people say it is we all have this kind of subconscious or whatever thought that like our life will begin at a certain point.
Yep.
Like, hey,
if I just
like my life will really, really start when I graduate from college and get a job. My life will really, really, really start when me and my fiance have been engaged for 6 months, get married in 6 months. Like, we're always kind of telling ourselves this story of like, when I make enough money or I get this thing or I have this stability, then I will really, really start my life. I mean, I know I'm living it now, but I'll really, really start at this thing. And you just move the thing. The thing just moves. Yeah. Right? It's like after the kid's born, it's after the second kid's born, it's after the marriage, the engagement, the house, the thing, the college. And then what happens? You wake up one day, and I think this is what happened, right? In 2025, or maybe before for both of us, is we realized like, fuck, this is life, man. This is life. Yeah. Life is today. Life is right now. Life is this failure, this win, this thing. How am I living life?
Yeah.
Well, I've been living life like it'll keep starting after the damn thing I'm working on. And I've been working on the damn things consecutively for 20 years.
And you'll never get there.
Right.
And then you realize, like, to your point, it's like, it was never about getting there.
No, because the things you actually like are your kids or fishing or hunting. Like, that's me, right?
Yeah.
Or it's all of the things that don't really give a shit about that next apartment or don't really give a shit about that next business or whatever.
Yeah. And I kept thinking, I'm like, no, I'm building this future so we can have all these things. This will be awesome. And then you kind of get them. And then I'm like, no, there's just a lot more pressure. I'm like, well, some of the happiest moments are outside of all that stuff. And so really 25 was just a breaking down of it. It was a understand who I am, what I'm supposed to be doing. Um, and then and start rebuilding trust, business, those parts, because fundamentally they're still there. It took that toll on it because I didn't handle it correctly. I didn't know how to handle it correctly, and that's what I was realizing. And so it's I think I'll always remember 25. I put the book out because I don't think I'll remember the pain. Those are the parts I'll gloss over when I look back. Kind of like how Reed talks about his, where you're like, yeah, you can tell the story, but it doesn't have the moment. And so I think it's just one of those pieces where now I have a pretty clear goal of what I want to do.
It's funny. I had I've had multiple people tell me I should write a book, right?
Yeah,
but they usually tell me I should write a book after I'm telling them some story that's like pretty near unbelievable, right? Like I'm like, you'll never believe this thing, right? And I feel like, dude, you should write a book. And that happens enough. But as time goes on, you forget those things. And I can remember it was not this Christmas. It was the Christmas before last. I met up, like happenstance, met up with some old high school buddies, not intentionally, just randomly. And two of them were really, really old high school buddies, like probably guys I haven't seen almost much since high school. And we started kind of like telling stories and hanging out. And they started telling all of these stories that like I had forgotten. Like I remembered them when they told them. I was like, oh yeah, that was crazy. And they'd be like, oh yeah, you remember that time that? And I'd be like, oh yeah. And I just kind of had this like, oh yeah, all night long. I was like, and part of me was like, how do you guys remember this stuff, right? But the other part of me was just an aha, like every single one of those stories was a memorable story, like a really memorable story, which is the reason that they remembered it and they told it. We're like, oh yeah, that was crazy or that was amazing. And yet I forgot even really crazy, amazing things that were totally worth remembering just because of the way life is. So I totally resonate with like writing that book at any other time would just have a different
because the hope would be
vibe, a different.
Yeah, the hope is to write the comeback one. Look, this is how they turned out. This is why sticking through it matters.
Nobody writes the failure book while they're failing.
No, and now that I still reread it because it's a lot of just templates that I use. But I think the other biggest thing I learned from 25 is your worst case is never a worst case. Like your imagination of what worst case is, like because in theory, like let me say this one. So you have to sell your home. You lose a business, you have 3 lawsuits come in, all your projects got stalled. One of them is not leasing up, just got done, and your revenue's down 60%. Sounds pretty bad, right?
Okay, you keep going.
I can keep backing out a few more of that, but then it's like, but from that, so that was mine. But from that, sold my house, moved downtown. I dropped 2 hours off a commute that I get to see Logan 2 hours more a day. The business, I took something that was sucking the life from me and now have more joy than I've ever had. The businesses, well, because they weren't run right. So now we're diving into fundamentals of getting them there. And in every one of those, it was like, wait, that's not a worst case. Like the worst case is when it's
not only worst case because you can always go down the road of like, well, yeah, but you could get in a car wreck and lose your arm tomorrow, right? Like something catastrophic, and that would be worse. And then there's something else that could be worse, or somebody you love or care about could die, or like you can always go worse. But the aha, I think, not only is that things could be worse, or your worst case can always be worse, but it's also that, and you were talking about this with Michael Jordan a little bit more, or whatnot. But it's like it's easy to justify poor behavior when the product it produces is desirable, right? Like that's the one that hit home for me most lately is like, it's easy to justify poor behavior when the product it produces is desirable. So it was easy for me to justify getting angry when I use that anger as fuel to become driven or successful or results oriented. So all of a sudden I'm like, well, this anger is feeding this drive, which is feeding these results, but it doesn't mean that the anger is good. I'm self-justifying this angry thing. And so when you talk about like, it wasn't the businesses that were bad. It wasn't the projects that were bad. They were underfunded. They were whatever. I would sit there and wrestle with that and go, well, it's not even necessarily that. It's that we didn't learn to be as good of business people as we could have been because we were not required to do so because of the financial landscape of the economy. And it wasn't just us. It was everybody. It was banks. It was the government. It was whatever. The financial landscape at the time that we were learning to be business people and entrepreneurs allowed us to learn in such a way that the tools that we used that were effective at some point in time became ineffective because the landscape changed and we didn't have the practices or the systems or the tools in place to operate in that landscape because that's not the landscape that we were brought up in. It's not how we learned, right? Correct. So it's one of those things where like I try not to let myself off the hook, but I also try to say like, you can't get mad at the guy who, did something the way that he did it when that's the landscape, required it to do that way. You wouldn't look at a guy in 1902 building a house and be like, oh, he's nailing all the nails in by hand. Idiot. Not using an air nailer. And it's like, he doesn't have an air nailer. Yeah. That's how you would build a house in 1902. So it's easy to be hyper, or you could say rear view window critical of other people, but also of yourself. Yeah. Yeah. Because it's like, hey, listen, I was doing, now this is the caveat. Yeah. If you can make the statement that I was doing like Keith or anybody say, we were doing the best that we could with the information available to us at the time and the situation that we were in. If you can make that statement, then it's hard to really beat yourself up, or it's easy, I guess, for you to say, to reframe. Yeah. Now, the hard part for Keith or for me is like, I tend to be hypercritical enough that like, I'm like, but were you doing the best you could, Keith? Were you really, really doing the best you could with the information available? Or did you kind of know? And I think that's where then this whole that's self-doubt and guilt comes in. If you're like, man, I could have been a little bit more fiscally responsible. I could have been a little bit. Yeah.
Well, in mine, it was like, well, I had the buyer lined up. We're building the exact same thing I've built 400 times. We build them fast. I build it for less than anybody builds it for in the market. And the only one I didn't give enough, I just didn't think you could jump rates 6% in 6 months. Yeah. That just threw the whole thing off. And so then you go back, but it's like, should I have seen that? You knew inflation was going high. You knew they could have moved them. But I was like, if we just catch this right now, we can get this, because then rates go up. This person would have closed and we locked in a good rate. And
that's the I told you so year coming out, right?
Yeah, exactly.
When I've read the books, I've done the things, I've talked to the people, and the story that they've told me is, Keith, you won't see whatever it is coming that's coming that will lead to your demise. That's why you always have to play defense. You always have to have reserves. You always have to have whatever. And by the way, that looks foolish to everybody playing the game when you're playing it like the way Grandpa told you to, right? Yep. And it only looks smart in the moment, yet you never know when that moment's going to come, and you're never going to see it coming. Yeah. It's easy to dismiss that advice, because that advice can sound just like this. Hey, Jordan, bad things in your life are going to happen that you don't know about, so be really careful.
All the time.
All the time. And you're like, well, duh. Like,
it's also a hard one too, because it all depends on what your goal was. Like on mine, I wanted to be building 100-unit buildings with my money. Yeah. You only have one path, which is go all in, go all in, go all in. When you start with flipping homes, not even owning rentals, to get to that. And that's the one where,
if that's where you're going. Now, when you say you only have one path, you do have other paths.
No, to get to building 100 units, there's one path. If you're trying, and we did it in 3.5 years. Granted, low rates helped that a lot. Forward success helped a lot. And so I think when I was looking at it, I think the big one for me was, I think, just determining better fundamentals. And so now I built this cool box. I'll share it on there. It's just like a strict criteria of what I buy under that would exist, whether there's black swan events, whether there's other ones, but guess what it involved? Just less leverage.
And something else can still happen. I mean, that's the kind of the cynic in me, right? Is something else can happen, and you don't tend to see those things. But let's fast forward this conversation to 2026. Yep. 2026. Top 2-3 goals, aspirations, or what do you call them? New Year's resolutions? Resolutions.
Yeah. So, I mean, 2026 is going to be the finish what I started year. So, a lot of so last year was the I told you so year. So, it's my awareness year. Like now I'm aware of it. I know where I'm at. I have build the plan. And so, kind of this year is the finish what I started. And then next year will be the reward year. And so, this year is the communication. So, kind of the first one is just better communication. Back to that. If I say it, do it. Be upfront, and it's a lot of work for me because my head's so jumbled on a lot of this. I'm not as detailed as like Joel is on it, but I think that the communication is the first big one. Second one is gonna be health. I feel like that's the one I give up the most, to stay up late. Because I mean, to stay up late, I have to have a few drinks. Yeah, I have to have a few drinks. By the time I'm getting up, I'm sleeping 4 or 5 hours. And so I think health, a focus back on health. And then the last one for me is in-person relationships. like going, like that's the whole reason I said yes. I don't have time to go last night. I was busy. Like, it was an invite. I'm like, normally I've said no to that 99% of the time. And I went there and it gave me so much life energy just being in there.
Yeah.
And I forgot that in my effort to get all this done and really focus is that I gave up that part and found that that is a big part of me. And so those are kind of the 3 areas that I'm going to try to improve on or have be a focus this year. And, I think in an effort to overall build back trust, finish projects, kind of do what I had set out to do. So
I love it. I love it. For as a caveat for anybody still listening, one of the ahas I had the other day, I was talking to a mentor of mine. We were talking about 2026 goals, aspirations, and resolutions. And it was a group call, and somebody else on the call said, I don't really set goals or do the whole New Year's thing. It doesn't really matter. I have found in the past that it doesn't really dictate my success that year or not, or the things I really want to do. If I'm committed to being in good health, then I'm committed to that. I don't need to set some silly goal around it or yada, yada. But what was interesting was the guy leading the call, who's a good mentor of mine. He said, subconsciously, whether you know it or not, whether you set goals or don't set goals, you set goals.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of this epiphany where he described, he's like, listen, goals and resolutions are you consciously telling your subconscious and constantly, stating it, writing it, doing it, putting into the existence the things that you want so that you make your subconscious aware of it and that it then helps you achieve that.
Yeah.
Right. So if you don't publicly declare it or write it down or share it or whatever, a lot of times we can tell ourselves it doesn't matter, but he's like, your subconscious already has goals.
Yeah.
And so more than likely, your subconscious's goal that whether you're aware of it or not, is to keep you exactly where you are. And if it wasn't, you wouldn't be where you are. Meaning you are where you are because you are where you are. And your subconscious is the primary driving factor that helps get you almost anywhere, right? Outside of the conscious initial statement. So you are where you are because of probably the goals and intentions that your subconscious already has. So if you want anything more than what you already have, even minute, if you don't state it, create it, make it, declare it, there's a very good, your chances of failure are exponentially higher.
Yeah.
Because you're not enrolling your subconscious. Right?
You're just floating. Well, I think you're the one who told me that because I was like, you asked me, what was it, a couple weeks ago? Yeah, so what are your goals as we were preparing for this? And I'm like, I don't have any. Yeah. And you're like, well, that's stupid. And so then I went back and I was like, never mind, I will create these because I want to. And those are general. Now I'll make them very specific of like what I want to do.
Yeah, and it's not to say that it's stupid. If you are happy where you are, then it's
I'm
fine.
not. I just didn't want to go through the exercise of it. And
trust me, I struggle with it as well. The only reason I do it is because for the last 2 years I've deep dove into like the subconscious and goal setting and what helps motivated people or successful people drive and what doesn't. And it's the differentiator. And the more and more I'm learning about hypnosis and the subconscious mind and how this stuff works is it's like, it's so much more powerful and effective than you consciously are. And that's been my biggest aha of all of it, right? If I could share any knowledge of that with anybody, is about like, as powerful as you think your willpower is, it pales in comparison. It's a mouse to an elephant compared to your subconscious wiring.
Yeah.
And 10,000 bits of information are coming into your brain every second. You're consciously aware of 40 or 50.
Yep.
So 9,950 things are being diverted. They're being decided. They are being thrown into different categories and either being forgotten or brought to attention or whatever, based on the decision of a thing that you're not consciously aware of.
Right.
And it is basing that decision on what it believes is important to you because it's doing nothing than trying to help you. So it was just one of those things like, this is silly. This is stupid. I don't like it either. But just know that if you don't do it, it's being done for you. And you may or may not like that result.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. And I'm a reverse engineer guy. What was great is like, I don't think my long-term goals have changed. So now it's just a matter of what do I want to do in the years in between getting there to help towards that. And so that's why a lot of my goal setting was tough because it was in thousands of units because that's what I thought I wanted. Now I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure I still want what I wanted before, which is create my own little fund, go fund small businesses and help mentor at a level, but where I'm not reliant on outside funds to do so. I was like, now I know where it's at. So then I want to attend things. I want to get better at these because if I'm going to help somebody through this, an entrepreneur that is going to go through this, I'm like, I'm probably now the most prepared I've been. So then the book makes more sense. frameworks make more sense. Matrices make more sense. And so it's really, for me, I just reverse engineer that bigger goal that I want down into these, what am I going to do this year towards that? I think where I was, when I answered your question with I don't have goals, is because I was just like, do I even want that? And so I spent like a week just really thinking, what is it that I want? What do I enjoy?
Yeah.
And I found out that what I'm doing now, I don't enjoy. The numbers make sense. The buildings make sense.
So peeling apart that onion, and we can leave it there for the listeners, but peeling apart that onion of like, most people don't set goals, or if you don't want to set resolutions in this, that's fine. Understand you're setting them anyway. But the reality is most people, the truth be told, most people don't set goals because they don't know what they want.
Correct.
That's the reality. And in order to figure out what you want requires another set of work.
Yeah.
And that's really the real work. The real work is being clear about who you want to be and what you want. Yeah. And if you are clear, then yes, the setting of the goal becomes arbitrary and insignificant because your subconscious already knows. Yeah. They're already clear about what Keith wants, and Keith is already clear about who he's trying to be and the things he's trying to achieve. Now he doesn't need to set goals, but he did. Yeah. It's through that clarity. And I think what happens sometimes is without clarity, it leads us to inaction or indecision because we don't know. So then the reason not to act or to do or to say or to go is because we don't know. Yeah. Like, where do you want to go, Jordan? I don't know. Well, then just sit right here in Spokane. But as soon as you are clear about, I want to go to whatever, Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Yeah. Now all of a sudden it's like options. Do we fly? Do we drive? Do we run? Do we walk? What path do we take? Do we, but it's so much easier to sit there and say, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, the Brick West one isn't tough for me. I'm like, before I started, I said, I'm not going to start a brewery if it's a local pub. I said, I'm going to start a brewery if we can get to 20,000 barrels or 16. That's where No Lie was at the time. So everything I bought was sized to get us to 16,000 barrels. Yeah. And then when the question was, do you buy more equipment because we're capped at 4?
The answer is hell yes.
You do. And you go all in to do it because we're going to get to 16 or we're not.
Yeah.
And that's what I realized was like, but that goal had nothing to do with me. Like, why do I need a brewery that competes with No Lie? Outside of it's fun, but like, that was my issue, was I was growth at all costs. Yeah. And that greatest cost I lost, and that was me. And so now it's like, this year's like, well, no, that could be somebody's dream, and maybe that'll happen, but I don't think it has to be growth at all costs. I think it'd be growth with intention. And I think that's what I'm kind of learning through this. Yes, I think 2026 is going to be one of those fun years where we kind of rebalance, regrow. And so how about you? What's your 2026 going to look like?
It's going to be primarily MS4. So for the listeners or whoever needs it, so MS4 is my coaching consulting company. And essentially it is the best way I can describe it. And I've gotten a little more clear, but it's performance coaching, right? So it's performance coaching for entrepreneurs, small business people, realtors, even athletes is where another direction I'm trying to transition into. Ironically enough, I've had like 1 or 2 athletes that have like reached out, or parents of athletes.
That's cool.
And I'm kind of leaning in that direction as well. But like, that's something that I got clear about in 2025 is like with MS4, like, what is this? And I come out of the real estate world, we both do. And so I originally started my coaching consulting company to like aim at coaching, consulting real estate agents, brokerages, and teams to scale their business. What I found is that the principles and the ideas and the concepts and the practices behind it are universal enough that they apply to various aspects, even like athletics or whatever, because it's performance-based coaching.
Correct.
So it's no secret to anybody who's listened to more than 1 or 2 of these episodes that I'm hefty on mindset. It's actually what the M and MS4 stands for, is mindset. But the more and more I've dove into it, it is one of the largest, if not the largest thing that typically thwarts performance. And I'm succinct on that, right? It doesn't thwart necessarily success, although it has a big part because performance goes into success. But when you really back work it, I've narrowed it down to mindset affects performance, performance affects everything, right? Hitting your goals, achieving what you want to achieve, success, making money, all of it, being the parent you want to be. It's not about what you want. Yeah. It's not about what you plan for, aspire to, write down. It literally is about your performance. So my ability to communicate with somebody, if I want to strengthen a relationship, literally comes down to my performance, like my ability to perform the act of communication, not so that words come out of my mouth and people hear them, but so that they feel heard or seen, so that they understand what I'm saying. I mean, we've been talking off camera here, like miscommunication is a huge thing, and when you talk to people who are in that situation, like everyone's right? Like, well, this is what I heard. This is what you said. No, I didn't say that. This is what I heard. This is what, it's like, so fundamentally we have to own the performance of communication. We have to own the performance of anything. So that's the one thing I've really dove into. So 2026 for me is a lot of MS4. It's a lot of diving into performance, what drives performance, what makes and creates and shapes performance. And it's really, for me at this point in time, making it my full-time gig. So I kind of, I moonlighted in the coaching and consulting world, and then I kind of started a business. But this 2026 is kind of the year I kind of lean into that.
How many clients do you have?
So I have online courses.
Okay. Yep.
And then I have one-on-one individual coaching clients. And so like collectively, I would say since MS4 launched, I've had about 50.
Oh yeah.
That's like different,
that's great.
Whether they take a course or whether they do a 90-day thing or whether they do one-on-one. So it's one of those things where I'm not necessarily looking for more clients. I'm looking to get a group of clients, and really, for me personally, my selfish interest is their results. Yeah. So I don't judge coaches based upon like, I've had 150,000 people through my coaching program. I'm like, well, did it do them any good? Right. But if you can say, I coached LeBron James, right? Then I'm like, whoa, okay, right? Or my coaching clients have 5 rings, or my top 3 coaching clients make $100 million a year, right? To me, like, it's more about the results of the people that you're capable of coaching and their performance than it is numbers of clients. So, like, not to sidestep that question, but like, I don't know, like 2026 might be 3 of the right clients for me as opposed to 300. 300. Yeah. I'm really interested, not selfishly in getting high performance as clients, but also like being able to move the needle for them. Because you can coach LeBron James for a week and tell everybody in that week that you're LeBron James's coach. But like if he fires you a week later because you're not getting him results or he's not getting better results, right? So I want to, part of it is finding people that will lend themselves to coaching and that I can coach to performance that will actually move the needle for them.
Yeah.
Right.
That's cool.
Which in turn moves the needle for me. So,
huge. So when you're finding that balance, it's a way to feed that same side you were talking about, right?
Yeah.
And doing it through a really cool medium for that of, I don't know, I think you want to win, you want to compete, you want to do that. And I think sometimes that competition can be in a way of helping somebody else actually meet that objective. And
what's also interesting is I've been in the coaching world now for a while. So I'm networking with and I'm masterminding with other coaches and other consultants. And like I met, for example, a gal, I won't name names, but I met a gal who's probably in her late 60s, early 70s, who's a performance coach who has some really high level client. And like, she's so unassuming, right? Yeah. Like when I first met her, I was like, what?
That's funny.
And so there's this really interesting dissection of like, you being able to coach somebody really well to be a highly effective performer in a world doesn't necessarily mean that you have to live or even be able to do it. Right. Yeah. Like one of her clients, for example, is a tennis player and it's like, she doesn't play tennis. She literally is a performance coach to a tennis player and she doesn't play tennis. And I'm like, well, how does that work? And again, it just comes back to mindset. It comes back to helping him get the most out of his performance. Has nothing to do essentially with my ability to be like, oh, your angle on your backhand is off. Yeah. It's over. Like that conversation was done before that person was 15 years old. Right. But now it's like a mental game. It's a mental game. And I think life is a mental game.
I think life is. The more I do it, I'm like, the more I realize it is. And it's the tweaks 100%. And they transcend. It's like, it goes into everything, right? The thing I'm talking about, communication, business. Well, that's probably communication with friends. That's probably communication with Whitney. That's probably like, as I watch it trickle across, it's not just isolated to the one activity, right? It's this.
And so there's this balance. This is the most interesting thing that I find, but there's this balance between delusion, right? Yeah. And self fulfilling mindset, like, right? So there's a very real concept and reality to the fact of you are very rarely, if ever, going to be able to achieve certain results if you don't believe them possible. Yeah. Period. And we can dive down the rabbit hole that all we want, and we're limited on time, so we're not gonna. But it is very hard. Every once in a while, you'll get somebody who surprised themselves. Like I take someone out to a track, I take a stopwatch with me, I say, just run a mile as fast as you possibly can. Click go, they take off running. They run a sub 5-minute mile. Yeah. And you're like, holy cow, you ran a mile in 4 minutes and 58 seconds. Yeah. And you see a look of surprise and they're like, really? I did? I had no idea. That is a humongous outlier. Mm-hmm. What is much more common is somebody who wants to run a sub 5-minute mile, who consistently comes in at 5:01, 5:03, 5:05. And it literally is like, it is not their ability holding them back. You will find somebody shorter, not as strong, not as experienced, that can do it, and they can. And it's a mental block. Like their physical performance. And this goes for business and whatever, is literally being thwarted by like they don't actually believe in their mind that it's possible. And then this goes into this whole tricky world of like trying to prove that they are like literally subconsciously self-sabotaging a result that they want because of a lack of belief.
It is crazy. And maybe it was on the podcast or it was you, because you always quote books. I don't remember the book, but don't quote me on this, but I believe when the first person broke the 4-minute mile, somebody broke that record like 2 weeks later.
Oh, like 5 people did within like a short amount of time. Yeah.
And it's that.
Yeah, when the first 4-minute mile was broken, I think like 5 other people broke it like that same year. And yet it was unbroken for decades, right?
It never been beat.
And it's just the idea or the concept that people are like, oh, it is possible. It's possible. Exactly. You can do it. Oh, and then a belief in like, I'm a better runner than that guy. Exactly. I'm just as fast as he is. If he can do it, I can also do it, right? Yeah. And you see that in a variety of different capacities. So the long and the short of it is like that then comes back to a lot of, and this is where I'm intrigued. So my 2026 is MS4, a real push there, performance coaching, and then inside of that is mental and even like hypnosis is what I'm really into right now.
Interesting.
So I want to get certified in like hypnosis. And that's like a goal for 2026. It's like, I want to be able to help people rewire their subconscious in actuality. Yeah. Without having it be like positive self-talk or here's some practices that you can do. Like, I want to literally be like, okay, you want to quit smoking? Like, let's do this. Right. So that's
pretty cool.
I know. Watch out.
Did that kind of evolve? Because I mean, I've known about MS4. You've told me about it.
Oh, it's been a huge evolution.
But I never thought it was a big piece of what you were doing, except for every time you talk about it, you get excited. So how did that goal kind of?
It's been a huge evolution, but I think it's been an evolution from, what I would say it started out as was like being told as a young child, and also kind of having the narrative written for me that I was like a stubborn kid. And like when I dug my heels in, like I either wouldn't do or I would do whatever I set my mind to, right? Yeah. Like my uncle, a lot of people tell you that story. They're like, Keith is a kid. If he doesn't want to do it, dude, you can drag that dude to the water trough and stuff his head under, and he will drown before he ever drinks it, right? And the flip side was like, he'll chew through a steel. Like you put him in a cage and like, dude, that kid's going to wear his teeth off before like, and I've just always had that. Yeah. So that's the start of it, right? And not like, bunch of pat on my own back or so. It's just how I was. It's like I was wired. But then somewhere along the line, and I think it was more as I got older with business and whatever, was like I wanted to transcend that to other people, that same ability. I saw other agents in my brokerage. I saw other business partners. I saw other entrepreneurs that had lofty goals, weren't hitting it, but I was like questioning their commitment or drive or belief. And I was like, but for me, it was so natural. It's like, well, dude, you just do it. Like you just, but then I was like, there's got to be more to it. So I just started unpacking the layers of the onion of like, okay, what is it actually? It can't just be determination and sheer, right? Mm-hmm. But I think what it was actually was like, I had the ability to vividly, visually see myself doing it, right? Like if I wanted to get all A's, I never sat down and kumbaya and cross, but I could do it. I could do it. Whether I was driving my car out to Eastern or whether I was like, I can do this. But I could visually in my mind see the report card. I could see the thing I wanted, And so again, I think it started all organically, and then that's transcended from trying to coach and mentor other people, and then being really frustrated when I couldn't just tell them. I'm just like, Jordan, you just stay positive, you just visualize it, you just do it. And so there was another break. And then that all transpired into kind of developing MS4, was looking at the things in my life that helped me be successful, but also looking at the people around me that were successful or that were having success, and breaking down what it comes down to and what are the key factors. All of that is just knowledge. That's all just understanding.
Yeah.
Now you have to spin it to say, okay, well, great. You know how to make it happen. You understand it. How do you teach it to somebody? Yeah. How do I get, Johnny, somebody who is in a completely different town, a different business, a different thing? What are the things that you can teach, coach, pass down to them, so where they can start to replicate the performance, right? Because I think so much of life, when you look out at it, is we see greatness in people that's unreplicatable. Could be an architect, could be an engineer, right? Like, how come so many houses have like a person's name attached to them, or buildings? So like, oh, that's a so-and-so's building, or whatever, right? Yeah, Kirkland Cutter, or that's a John Saylor, or that's it's because this architect had an uncanny ability to design that was recognized by people as greatness, or as good, or better. And then people sought after it so many times. That person never can replicate that in another person. A lot of times you see it in lineage of like kids, or great basketball player could teach their kids, but a lot of time on task over time, right?
Yeah.
Or the passing down via like almost osmosis of mindset. Yeah. Like, I have a feeling like if your parent is an Olympic athlete, just being around them for 20 years of your life, you will pick up on the nuances of their mindset. Oh, this is how my dad thinks, or oh, this is how my mom thinks. Oh, this is what she's going to say if I say this. This is what she's going to ride me on tomorrow. They're never going to sit you down and be like, no, but you're through the experience, through the modeling, you're going to pick some of that stuff up. So, but for me, I'm like, if you hire me as a coach, what I'm going to say, Jordan, follow me around for 20 years and I'll model it for you? That doesn't work. So it's got to be more succinct. Yeah. So that kind of is just transpired to starting to say, okay, I want to do this. This is important to me. I want to pass this along. I want to identify it. I want to put it into practice. But I need to put it into practice in other people to prove validity, right? To prove proof of concept. And then this is, I would say, the other switch that happened. That has brought me to where I am is I got into the world of self-improvement and coaching and this and that. And I started seeing other people. And for me, it was like the 4-minute mile thing. I was meeting Betsy, 70-year-old lady. I was meeting Johnny, slick dude in a suit. I was meeting whatever, but I wasn't meeting them as a person. I was meeting them as like, what are their concepts? What do they coach around? What are their results? And I was like, I could do that. Yeah. I could do that. I think mine's better than that. Yeah. Like, I actually think theirs would be enhanced if I could talk to them about an aspect of something I've been working on and say, hey, have you ever thought about when you get to this place with your client, talking to them about this? So many of them talk about mindset as in a principle and not a practice. Correct. And so for me, that's been so it was like it was like a 4-minute mile thing. So I've yet to break that 4-minute mile, but I feel like that was the belief in me, right? So now it's the chew through steel thing. He's got to go back to the lab and do it. But like, I look around at the industry, the coaching consulting industry, the performance industry, and I literally think I can hang with the best of them, right? Yeah. I might be delusional. This goes back to that delusional conversation. Delusional. And there's a fine line between delusion or
genius.
They say, what is it?
I think it's, they say insanity and
genius. Insanity and genius, right? Yeah. So I'm not sure which one.
No, but I like it. And you have that way, but I'd give you that compliment. You have this ability to digest information, stay calm in that information, and deliver it in a way how somebody understands. It's the engineer side of you. Like you break down the mental thought like it's a product. And then you deliver it in a way that I think on my end is pretty well received. I mean, I took notes of, like, when I said I wrote the book, I mean, it's notes of the guest, sure, but it's a lot of what you said in there, like, where it's just like,
and a lot of what I have said or I say isn't like my original thought necessarily. It's my spin on,
but it's you breaking it down. And I think that's when you discount a little bit in how you deliver, because and I think it's why people probably like the podcast too, is you'll take a thought, bring it back, but then you break it into these digestible chunks that either relate in a certain form or as you read that person. And I'll watch you do it depending on who the guest is and how you deliver that same information back to them. But I think, whereas mine, I'm just high level. Let's just talk through this stuff. And at the end, I may come back to a couple notes, but very rarely does it like, wait a second, let's tie a bow on this. Let's bring this. You're always the one let's bring this back. Here's what we're looking at. And I think not everybody has that that kind of ability, whether you're just trained, you're trying to do it, or it's, but I think you just naturally do that.
Yeah, there's definitely, and I think I talk about this with my clients all the time, but there is definitely a natural ability that a lot of people have, that will become a ceiling for some people if they don't have it. And also, you can talk to the end of the earth about it. There's hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard, right? Yeah. Well, the idea is like, I want a really talented, hardworking person.
Yeah,
I want both, right?
That's assuming you can't have both.
Because the coaching of a hard worker without the talent is also frustrating for the for the hard worker as well as for the coach, in the sense of like, they just might not have the pieces to get there, right? Like I can pick the wrong person through the 4-minute mile exercise, and they may not actually physically be able. I'm one of them. I don't know that I could physically able to run a sub 4-minute mile. Like that's amazing, right? There's very few people in the world that have actually done it. By the way, like, make it light of it. I don't know how many, but I would say 100 less.
I mean, it's got to be a very few people. It's super fast.
Yeah. So a lot of it isn't just mindset, right? Yeah. Like, oh, you just don't believe in yourself, or you don't believe it's possible. It's actually that hard to do it, and you have to have that typically to do that. I don't know that there's too many people that have surprised themselves doing it.
The 5 minutes is probably a good example for that. I think people could do that. That seems like a sub 5.
I think I got my that.
Compete on that.
Anyways, so that's 2026 in a nutshell, man. I mean, I think 2025, I would short it up as just like I kind of leaned into my anger issue, cleared that up, right? And just getting really big on not making the same mistakes I've made in the past. And then 2026 for me is all about like performance coaching with MS4 and bringing that to the people. Can I take this coaching platform that I believe in, that I built, and can I get performance out of other people at a high level for talented people? That's kind of my personal challenge.
Oh, that's going to be cool. Well, I'm excited we're bringing the podcast back again another year. I had a blast. Yeah. This is going to be a fun one.
It's going to be a good one.
Got some cool guests lined up. That'd be a good 2026 that way.
For sure. So I would leave you with this. If you have not set your 2026 goals, or if you're a little scared or nervous, put some time into it. Think about it. Make 2026 one of your best years ever. And the only way you can do that is actually tangibly setting things up in your mind that you want them to be, being clear about them, and pursuing those. So hopefully that's a little bit of motivation or inspiration for you.
Motivated me. That's all I needed.
And the first way that you can achieve your goals this year is to hit like or subscribe on the Chestnut Jagger Show. Hey, all right. See you next time, guys. All right, you guys, thanks for listening to today's episode. While you're out there, would you please do us a favor and give us a like, subscribe, or a follow, whether you listen on Spotify, iTunes, or YouTube? We'd really appreciate it. Also, if you don't mind while you're there, give us a 5-star review. Maybe write a review. If you have a favorite episode, feel free to give it a like. Thanks for listening. We really appreciate it.